Hey guys, I just wanted to make a video talking about an update to the Turcog, the 3E fixed 4X Prism sight that they have, and just one issue that I ran into it. So I went to a match this past weekend, the Comrade Cup, and at that there was a shooting that went out to typically about 250, 300 yards, but with a bonus target at 4X. And when I was taking a sight in, that morning, just looking downrange and getting a view of the targets through the optic, I noticed that it had begun to have a shift back and forth on the rail. Now, I had confirmed 0 earlier that week, and I took it into the range and it was just fine. It would stay on the rail when I was shooting, and I hadn't touched it since the past 2-3 matches that I had used this particular rifle at. So I'm not quite sure how it began to have a forward and backwards movement on the rail, but what I am guessing happened is that this detent wheel here, rather not detent wheel, just tensioning knob here, when you install it, requires you to basically thread this screw forwards and backwards, and that adjusts the tension for the QD lever on the opposite side. And what I'm guessing happened is over time shooting, this knob loosened itself because there's no secondary retention on it. So it allowed the optic to loosen while attached to the rifle without touching the QD lever. So that's obviously pretty bad issue. At the match, I had noticed that the first stage. I noticed it before I started shooting, and I had, very quickly undid the lever, tightened up the knob again, put the lever back on and just prayed for the first stage. The first stage was kind of disastrous. I did not par out, but I was having to hold at about 200 yards, 2.5 mils or so to the right. The elevation was perfectly fine, but the windage was completely off. So I took that knowledge and I, adjusted the 0 on the fly, 2.5 mils, and that was good enough for making hits out to 300 yards on the second and third stage that I shot. And by that point, I had managed to tweak it enough that shooting out to 400 yards, I had no issue. And this gun in particular is in 7.62x39. So I was able to fix it. It did cost me some time on all 3 stages that I used it on. So very annoying in that regard, but it was salvageable. But that is still quite annoying that the QD lever failed. So what I'm thinking to see is that this needs some sort of secondary retention to prevent it from rotating. I have here a ADM mount, and very common QD lever, probably one of the most popular QD mounts on the market right now in the US. And I think the key design here is that it has a QD lever, but to adjust the tensioning, it needs to be unlocked, and you need to push it forward so that the nub actually clears the body, and then you can adjust tension based on your particular rail. And then when it's recessed and locked, it physically cannot rotate because the bolt is recessed into the mount body itself. So I think that would be a really good upgrade to if they want to keep the QD mounts. I personally wouldn't even use QD to begin with. I would rather see a GI bolt. Other mechanisms that may work, maybe a detent and click-based mechanism, kind of like Scalar Works mounts. I don't have one on hand to show, but I think that would be really good. Anything besides just this simple mount, because this does not seem to retain tension very well over long strings of fire. I'll probably be replacing this with a simple cross bolt and washer and bolt and nut, just so I can get rid of the QD entirely. But I just wanted to give an update on that. So just as a little add-on to the mount video, so this is how the mount traditionally works, is that you would have the mount unlocked, you would put it on your rifle, and then you would figure out what it is, and you would just, tighten that in whatever amount of increments, and then you would test fit by just folding it and locking it. Does it seem to fit on the rifle well? If not, unlock it and tighten it some more, and then lock it, and then that. So this prevents it from obviously getting unlocked and then the mount falling off. But what this doesn't do is provide any secondary anti-rotation, like how I said in the original video, because here this can still move. So even though it's in the locked position, this can come pretty much all the way out, and that's not providing retention. This can still come off the rifle despite it being locked. So that was the issue that I believe I ran into. So I disassembled the QD mount, and it's pretty easy to come off. There's just a little retainer C-clip, kind of like a AR dust cover, that keeps the threaded tensioning knob onto the mount. Just remove that, and then the tension knob can come off, and the entire QD arm comes off. So what I did is I just used a 10/32 bolt and nut, just ran that through. So now I can just, use an appropriate sized Allen key and a wrench, and I can torque this down to whatever amount and not have to worry about it. Also removes the added bulk of the QD lever on the side, depending on how you run the mount, like I said in my original 3E video. The fix that I did is incredibly similar to what I did on the 1-4, where that mount is a little bit different because of the nature of how this zeroes, but I did the exact same thing. 10/32 mount, washer, and then another nylock bolt and a washer to have a non-QD mount here. So recurring issue in these mounts. I will say that this one didn't lose zero in that it had plastic deformation. It just lost zero in that the mechanical design of it didn't prevent it from working its way loose. I guess end result is effectively the same, so it's not a terribly good mount, but this is a $1.25 fix, so it's not terribly expensive to do. I would just like to see something from the factory. That means I don't have to mess around with the mount myself. Thanks.